thank you for your introduction, and thanks to the organizer for giving me opportunity to share this podium with you. So this is a work which I am going to present here. It is part of the PhD work of my student Aranyak. Professor Kaushik Ghosh and Professor Achinto Mukhopadhyay are two of my colleagues. Actually, Achinto is very well known to this community. This time he couldn't come here. So, when we are coming to this heat generating porous bed or porous debris, there is a background of the problem. Actually, the genesis of the problem is coming from the beyond design accident of nuclear reactors. So what happens in nuclear reactors, all of you know that the fission fuels are within some tubes, and for cooling of the reactor we are using certain coolant. Now if for certain reason the coolant is lost, then heat generation is there within the reactor, and then what happens, sometimes the whole reactor core or sometime partially the reactor core melts, and when it is molten, then the melt is coming down basically in a containment where you can have the moderator fluid, or sometimes you have some makeup kind of arrangement of this one also. So what happens here, the nuclear core, it is molten and it is coming down here, but when it is coming in contact with the cooling fluid here, say maybe water, then what happens, the molten metal is fragmented into smaller pieces. So ultimately what we are getting here at the bottom of this water pool, it is nothing but a porous bed. But you can imagine that the metal which is coming from here, that contains the fissile products. So the debris bed is still a heat generating debris bed. So the name of this bed, we call it a corium bed, and it is basically a mixture of many things along with the nuclear fuel. So the basic focus of the research is to find out the dry out condition of this bed which is settled within the liquid pool. Dry out means the thing is generating heat. So you are having a liquid pool as a coolant. So the capability of your coolant should be such that the debris bed which is heaped at the bottom of your pool, it is the heat which is generated by it is taken away from the debris bed. Otherwise what will happen, the thing will again melt, it will say agglomerate, and then it will generate energy inside, and then there is a possibility of a secondary fragmentation which is further generating a pressure wave, and it will cause the failure of the containment which is actually containing the liquid pool. So if we look at the structure of the debris bed, it is something, a heap like this. So we can, it is some kind of a conical shape or a truncated conical kind of a shape, and what will be the size of your fragments, it depends on various features. So we really we have certain data, but it is not, I should not say it is very exhaustive study has been done on the size of this debris bed, because this kind of a fragmentation itself is another kind of a very involved research problem. So ultimately there are certain features. So one is fluid flow pattern within the debris. So you can imagine that this is the bed. Here you have the water pool, so how the thing will flow. So if the bed is like this, there is a certain pattern. If the bed structure is like this, then the pattern of the water flow will be different. So that is one. Another one is your debris bed structure. That means what is the material. Second one is debris bed composition, the particle size, porosity, etc. The thermal state of the coolant, that means if you can have some subcooling of your water, that will give you certain advantage. And another thing is system pressure. And there are other variables also. We could figure out only a few of those. So here worldwide there are certain experiments happen. So from there we can have some particle size range and the average porosity of the debris bed. And this is our own experiment. We did it with a very low melting point metal. It's a wood metal. And we can find certain type of say particle size. And you can imagine that the particle size is variable. It ranges over over certain sizes. But what we are using here, we are using a particular size of particle in our modeling. So that is one kind of limitation, you can say. So that part we need to enhance in our later version. Now, for our modeling, we have taken this kind of a domain. So this is basically a cylindrical vessel where the liquid is there, and this is your porous bed, heat generating porous bed. So this bed is composed of particles, spherical particles of a certain size. So for mathematical modeling, we can demarcate two regions clearly. One is your clear fluid region and another one is your porous debris region. So we can go for the detailed say conservation equations, mass, momentum and energy for clear fluids. So here you can have equations for both the fluids, because here also you can have a possibility of vapor generation. So your equations, you will have to form it in terms of the liquid region as well as the vapor region in the clear fluid area. And accordingly, if you look at this momentum transport, you can have certain terms. So one is your momentum transfer from one phase to other phase, that means liquid to vapor. That is actually related with the mass transport with the vaporization or condensation. And here you can have the interfacial drag between the two fluids. And this is the gravity term as well. And when you are coming to the energy equation, here you can have one heat transfer term from your phase, say vapor phase to your interface, that means vapor to liquid, or in the other equation maybe from liquid to vapor. And this term is associated with the vaporization or condensation term. And when you are coming to the porous debris bed, you can have the similar kind of your continuity and momentum equation. But only thing is, here you will have to consider one parameter, which is epsilon f, or the porosity of your debris bed. So we can specify one porosity and we can solve the equations. And when you are coming to the energy equation of your porous debris bed, then you can have one more equation along with your liquid and vapor, and that is for the solid. And when you are coming to the solid equation, then you can have this kind of a term, which is basically the heat generation, which is coming from the solid or the porous debris bed. And when you are looking at all these equations, you can see certain terms which are there. for which we need to have our closer relations. So now if you come to the flow regime demarcation, there are actually 3 regimes. Here you can imagine that this is basically a liquid domain where you can have some sparse vapor bubbles kind of a situation, these white things, and this brown things are the solid particles which can have inside the pool also. So this kind of a thing, we can call it a liquid continuous domain where liquid is a major contributor. So here we can have just the reverse kind of a situation where vapor is the major contributor. You can have a few liquid present there and also along with the debris particle. But there is a transition zone which is in between these two, and the 3 regimes can be demarcated on the basis of your volume fraction of your liquid or volume fraction of your vapor inside your flow domain. So you can have certain interfacial drag in this clear fluid region. So for that you can have this kind of a modeling, and when you are coming to the transition regime, you can have this kind of a closer relation. And when you are coming to the interfacial drag term in your porous debris, you can remember one term in this equation. It is this one. This is basically the drag force which is coming because of your solid vapor interface, or this is coming from your solid liquid interface. So when you are going to model this term, you can have this kind of a model, and there are different researchers' scheme to address to this kind of a model, where if you do not consider the liquid vapor interfacial drag, then you can have these models. So here we have used this Reed model for our validation purpose also, just to check whether the model is actually working well or not. And you can have this Schulenberg and Muller model, where it's a more rigorous model because it is considering the liquid vapor interfacial drag along with this solid liquid or solid vapor interfacial drag force term. And there is another model which is known as Rahman's model. So this model is more rigorous compared to your Schulenberg and Muller model. We have used 3 models here for our validation. One is Reed, one is Schulenberg, Muller, and another one is Rahman model. And then if you come to the heat transfer term, so solid to liquid convection is one and solid to vapor convection is one. Again, that is based on these flow domains, and you can use the famous Range-Marshall model for that. And here if you find this, you will find that there is a model for this one or there is a model for this one, but you will be hardly finding any model for the transition flow regime. So what we did, we actually taken the weighted average of liquid and vapor for this transition flow model. So if you have your volume of say volume fraction value, so you can calculate what is the liquid heat transfer coefficient, or what is liquid heat transfer, what is vapor heat transfer, and you can take a linear interpolation on the basis of those two. And if we come to the boiling heat transfer part, here again we all know that there are again 3 regimes. One is nucleate boiling, one is film boiling, and another one is transition boiling. So for those we are actually using this Rosenau model. and there is one interfacial liquid vapor heat transfer part also, and we can use this kind of a model for that part. And you can assess the mass transfer, because when you are solving your equation, you will have to assess your alpha value. Alpha value means your volume fraction value, so that you can assess from the mass transfer closure, and the turbulence is addressed by the standard K epsilon model which is there in Fluent. So what we did here, we modeled the whole thing in ANSYS Fluent, and we will have to use certain UDF, user defined function, and these are the numerical schemes which is used here. So for the purpose of dry out estimation, if you see this curve, this value is the alpha value, that is the volume fraction value, and this is the time. So if the dry out occurs, then what will happen? It is alpha liquid, that means volume fraction of liquid. So that will come to 0 at certain location. So that means you have your heat generating solid, but that part is not submerged within your liquid. So that is one kind of a situation where you can call it's a dry out kind of a case, because at that situation what will happen, the temperature of your bed will actually rise. And if you have a steady state at this blue kind of a situation where you have certain amount of liquid over your debris bed, so this part you can call that here you are not getting any dry out condition. And if you check the temperature curve, you will see that in this blue case, the temperature value is saturated at some point, but when you are coming to this red case, the temperature is actually increasing with time. So if you come to the model validation, so here is one pressure difference validation. It is with Lee's experimental data. So here, but this validation is done with a cylindrical debris bed geometry. So here if you look at it, you will see that this one is your read model, which is slightly away from your experimental data, but your Rahman model and Schulenberg-Muller model is this one, and Rahman model is actually slight wavy. So what we decided after this, and after looking at this one, where we can have the say dry out power curve, so we decided that this Schulenberg-Muller model is possibly the best suited for this purpose. So further results we have taken with that model only. So when we are coming to our bed specification, so we have taken mainly 3 types of geometries. One is this type of a geometry, which is a truncated cone. One is a purely conical geometry, and another one is a cylindrical geometry. Now if you look at the domain, the boundary condition, these two are adiabatic wall, this is a symmetry boundary condition, and sorry, you have a constant pressure boundary condition at the top surface. So here actually you are allowing your fluids to move out and come in, but we have restricted the vapor entering into your solution domain. So your liquid can go out, it can come in, your vapor can go out only. So these are the dimensions of our bed geometry, and here are the different solid phase properties. If you look at this flow field, say we can visualize it physically, so there is no much discussion required for that. say if it is your bed, so what will happen, your major fluid will try to come in through this one, and there is a vapor generation within this, and that vapor will move out. But you will find some amount of liquid also within the debris bed, depending on the power generating capacity of the bed. So the major flow situation, if you look at from this side, it is a counterclockwise direction. Now this curve is really interesting, because here, now what will happen, say when you are allowing some amount of liquid inside your debris bed, then initially you will have some convective kind of a heat transfer. Then it will be shifted to your nucleate boiling regime, and then it will be some departure from nucleate boiling, or it will go into your film boiling regime. So here, if you look at this curve, it is temperature difference versus you have power density, and here the heat flux. So you can see up to this point, actually this is marked as point A. I do not know whether it is visible or not. So up to this point, you will find a very less amount of temperature rise, because here your heat flux value is your heat flux value is small, and with this heat flux value, what happens, the liquid which is coming in, it is taking away the heat, and then comes the actual, then the slope changes from here. So here your convection is slightly higher, so you are getting a more temperature rise in this regime from this point to this point, and from this point your slope is again changing, and this zone is actually the nucleate boiling zone, and this point C is the, you can call it a critical point, where the slope is changed, and you can see that this temperature difference is almost a horizontal kind of a situation. So here what is happening, you are actually departed from your nucleate boiling regime to your film boiling regime. So what happens after point C, that your vapor accumulation inside your debris bed is so high that it cannot actually say your liquid flow is actually hampered. So your change in heat flux is very, very minimal, but your temperature rise is higher. So with the same value of heat flux, you are not able to take away the heat from your debris bed after this point C. If you look at these curves, these are the curves we have already discussed earlier. So this is the actual phenomena which is going inside the geometry, and this is the point where after this we have seen this kind of a flat value of this delta T with time. So what we located, that this particular point we are calling it as a dry out point, and this power density or this heat flux value you can identify as the dry out power for your particular situation. So then how much time am I getting? 2-3 minutes, okay. So then we are coming to different bed compositions. So those are basically the parametric studies, so I am not going into the great details of that part. But interesting part is you are always getting a dry out situation here at the top part of your bed, which is also understood from the physical situation of your problem. So basic part is this surface is actually allowing your liquid to flow in, and this is your vapor escaping surface. So you are always getting the dry out at the top surface or at the portion of the top surface for your problem, and we can have different dry out points for different bed porosity. Similarly, we have tested for different particle sizes. So there also we can have different dry out points. We tested it for different bed configurations. For these 4 types, one is truncated cone, one is cone and cylindrical. 2 cylindrical, one is tall cylinder, one is short cylinder. And finally, we have tested it for different system pressures also. So these are the summary of our work. So if you want some further study, you can go to these first 2 references. One is obviously Aronnak's PhD thesis, which he submitted in last year. He is also awarded. And another one is one part of this work, which is in IJHMT in this year only, in 2020. Thank you.